Hi, I'm Matt McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today we have an interesting topic and a story to share that was written into writemac.com, WRITEMAC. That's my website. And if you want to write your story and get my take in a live stream just like this or a YouTube video, go to writemac.com, send it in, and I could give you my take in a video just like this. I do keep your name anonymous. There's no reason to share your name, and it actually helps other people that are in similar situations. So feel free to send your story in. Um, Here's a website. Now, sorry, just got a call here. Just throws you completely off. The phone's on vibrate and you're starting a live stream. And you're like, So, bottom line is how to co-parent after breaking up, when to stop trying to fix a relationship. Two really interesting topics. Full disclosure, I am not a parent, but I will give my opinion. When to stop trying to fix a relationship's a side note, because a lot of times I believe that people try harder or put more effort into quote unquote trying to fix the relationship or make it work when they have a kid. And I think there's some valor in doing that. And I think that you should try harder. That being said, when is it time to pack it in and go, we got to go our separate ways? So if you like this video, throw me a like. If you don't like this video, don't like it. That's fine. If you don't like it, say you don't like it. If you want to put in the comments below how you believe to co-parent after a breakup, please give me your take. Or if you want when to stop trying to fix a relationship, please give your take on that in the comments below. And if you really like this live stream, go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification button. Hopefully it lets you know when they drop, because they pretty much drop 5 to 6 times a week around this time. So let's get into it today. How to stop co-parenting after a breakup, when to stop trying to fix a relationship. So I'll just start out with this. The short answer, which we're going to dive deeper into this. The short answer is how to co-parent after breaking up. Put your kids first. Okay, that would be the short answer. Put your children first. What's in their best interest? After a breakup where there's no kids involved, you're allowed to be selfish. You're allowed to put yourself first. You are in a situation actually that during the breakup, you are now alone and you are now no longer dependent on another human being or in negotiations with them. I talk about this a lot, that actually a lot of what a relationship is a constant set of negotiations. Hey, what do you want to do this weekend? Oh, I want to go here. Oh, I want to go there. Well, hey, this Christmas, I want to go to my family's house. I want to go to my family's house. Can we do both? You're negotiating. And sometimes it's about money, but it's not always money. And so negotiations are off when you break up. Now, the interesting thing about that is if you're doing a co-parent situation, then negotiations are still on. Right. And this is why we have courts in a lot of countries. This is why we have divorce court and whatnot. And what I would also say is get yourself a lawyer and get ready to take that lawyer's advice. Get 3 different lawyers, get their advice. Pick the one that you feel like is in your corner and has experience in this field. And then that's your referee. That's the person that's going to be telling you what's fair, what's not fair in the rules of government. And that's what you got to go on. If you try to negotiate with your partner and you've broken up over bitter terms, or you have a lot of issues and that's why you broke up, well, then that's the reason why lawyers and courts are involved. Are they fun? Are they right? Are they wrong? That's for you to decide. But bottom line, it's better than you trying to figure it out just between the two of you. And you need to figure out what's best for the kids, right? I think most human beings want the best for their kids. And if you feel like you're doing something that might help you win a battle with your ex, that might hurt your children in some way, then you have to recheck that at the door and go, wait a minute, wait a sec. Is this gonna hurt little Johnny or little Anna a lot? And you got to think about your kid. And I think once you realize that the relationship's officially over, and you start to think to yourself, okay, now I'm a full-time parent still. I still have this relationship and this obligation. When to stop trying to fix a relationship. This ties in with co-parenting, but it's also can be separate. And what I would say is a lot of times people get exhausted. Okay, just like when you work out or you exercise, you reach a certain level and you go, "I'm done. That's enough." You know what I mean? There's only so much the human body can take in terms of physical stamina, and so your body will kind of tell you that. And some people can dig deeper and deeper on that, but the same thing applies to a relationship. Correct me if I'm wrong. Have you gotten to a point where you're like, "This just has to end"? It's layering, it's stacking, it's layering, it's stacking, and everyone's going, at some point someone just goes, "This is just too fucking much. I'm done." And they're exhausted and they're tired. Now, if you keep coming back to the table to try to fix the relationship, these are some questions I would ask, and these are just off the cuff. Number one, what needs to be fixed? Okay, what needs to change? Make a list. It could be 2, 3, 4, 5 things. And it might be petty things. It might be petty things. I had a client a month ago that had a real issue that his girlfriend, I think they were together about a year and a half, 2 years, the way she dressed. And I thought, wow, that's kind of shallow at first. Then he explained to me, I said, well, what do you want her to, how do you want her to dress? I mean, I didn't say that to him that it was shallow. I dug a little deeper and asked an extra question. I said, what are you looking for? He goes, well, jeans would be nice. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, if she's not working, she's in her sweats all the time. Yeah, that would get old. That would get old for a lot of people. He dressed pretty nice to work, and then he casually dressed nice. You go out with your girlfriend, and every time you go out, whether it's a restaurant, coffee shop, to meet friends, and she's in her sweatpants all the time. Yeah, that's something that someone might say, "Oh, you shouldn't break up over that." Well, if you hinted or said something and they're not responsive to it and they took it offensively, that is going to eat at you for a year or two. You might let it go, and you put that in the list. Okay, this is one of the problems. Okay, the other problem is they drink too much on the weekends and they're a different person. Okay, do they believe they have a problem drinking? Is it fixable? It's not that it's fixable in the light that, oh yeah, they could fix that if they could fix that. Do they want to fix it? Do they see it to be a problem? Or are they just fixing it to appease you, which they'll come back and do the same thing over again? Are the problems part of their character? If you've been with them for a year, 2 years, 3 years, you can assess, are there issues baked into who they are? Okay. Individuals that are highly jealous. It's very difficult for a person that's highly jealous to just turn that off. And when you're in the relationship, how you doing, Caitlin? I hope you're well. I hope the baby's well also. When you're in a relationship and you think, oh, they could fix that, they have to want to do it, and they have to want to do it for themselves. And so if you're trying, those are the questions you really need to ask. Are these going to be erased? Am I going to overlook them? And why do I keep trying? So for example, if you have kids together, that is an admirable and noble reason to try to make the relationship work. I'm with you 100%. But at some point, if the person keeps doing the same things over and over again, it's not you giving up. It's not you quitting. It's you realizing, hey, this isn't going to work. That's a totally different frame to see it in, rather than you going, yeah, I don't want to, I wasted all my time, or it's my baby's father, or it's this. Bottom line is, life's too short to be fucking miserable. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. And if someone's treating you a certain way and doing certain things in a relationship again and again and again and again and again and again, you got to ask yourself, what am I trying to fix? You have to be honest with yourself. And I'll add this to it. You need time away from the relationship to process your problems, because a lot of times in the middle of a breakup, in the middle of a serious relationship, there's a lot of other things that are going on, and all you're doing is putting out fires. You're dealing with real-time problems. And when you break up, this is why you miss someone too, because you think about good things. You're processing everything about the breakup, right? You might be stuck on some things. But sometimes taking two, and this is why no contact in some situations. It doesn't mean that in one day, 1 week, you're going to be able to process this. Sometimes it takes 3 weeks or a month for you to get to a point. You're like, you know what? And I would highly recommend a live coaching session with myself or another coach out there, because you need to, beyond just processing, you need to unpack the situation. This is the term I like to use, because you're literally taking everything out that's in your head, putting it on the table and going, oh, I like that part. I don't like this part. This would work. It's almost like you're repacking things for what's next. And you got to let go of some things, and you got to realize what's not working. So, Jen, how you doing, hon? Catlin says some people just continue to hold grudges. Okay, in your particular situation, that might be true. That's stubbornness, which makes it hard to co-parent. Baby is great, just trying to co-parent successfully. So I would be interested in your take in this live stream, and I'm open to your comments. I was just in a live coaching session yesterday, and someone said, well, do you have kids? I don't. Full disclosure. I have friends. I helped out with my niece and nephew, but I don't know that responsibility the way someone that has a kid does. And I think everyone's parenting journey is probably a little bit different. That being said, I think most people would agree when you are co-parenting, and it might be difficult, but at that point, your purpose in your life is to be a good parent and to do your best for your child. And so if you could put that first above winning an argument with your ex, and be as fair as possible with your partner, co-parent, if you will, in the sense that, and if they're not fair, you're going to have to get some legal action taken, right? And it's not going to be fun. It's not right, but you always got to come back to, is this the best thing for my kid? And if the individual that you're dealing with is a toxic individual, drug addict, alcoholic, verbally abusive, then you got to ask yourself, at some point, I don't want my kid to be around this individual because of who they are and how they act. And it might be the smack in the face that the co-parent needs to work on some of their issues. Okay, so I have a story to share, and I was waiting for a few people to be on deck before I would share the story. This was sent in. We got 7 on deck, 8 on deck. Thanks for the likes, but we'll get into the story right now. So she says, anonymous, no problem. Ending a toxic relationship while 8 months pregnant. I met the person I thought I loved over 4 years ago. Well, this is extremely tough situation, being that you're 8 months pregnant, and this is the time that you're going to end your relationship. And so my heart goes out to you, because there's a lot of breakups that are tough, but this one definitely is, just by that first line alone. There was a lot of signs I ignored in the relationship early on. I also just got out of another relationship when I met him. Well, that's fine. If you ended up being with someone for 4 years, there was something about that individual is highly attractive. You had a good connection. And so you maybe not taking the time, hindsight 2020, don't get down on yourself. This is not the time for it. It's time to get present and do your best to have a healthy pregnancy and take care of yourself. And so don't look back. A lot of people do this, whether they're in your situation or not. They go, oh, I could have done this different in the beginning of the relationship. Let that go. I learned that he didn't like my friends and was very controlling about who I hung out with. That is a red flag. It's not uncommon with some men out there, but that's one of those things you have to put in your back pocket now, and you got to go, I will not accept that in a future relationship. I know what that's about. I know what it leads to. So you learn something from that. Probably real time, you probably hadn't been around someone like this before, and you just thought kind of like, okay. At some point, you got to ask yourself this question: where's my power? I never had a problem like that in my first relationship. I didn't read that yet, but that's why you were manipulated, because you hadn't seen this before. So somehow you thought, oh, well, this is just how this guy's acting, when it was part of his character. He also didn't like me being around any guy. That's highly suspect. He would even argue if my cousins were actually my cousins. Wow, that's ridiculous. So, excuse me for a moment here. So, but he also had, so he would argue if my cousins were actually my cousins. He also had a side that sucked me into staying. Okay, so this is a manipulative individual. We lived together in his family's condo. There wasn't more than a few months we wouldn't get into a fight. We always made up. So this is a playbook you're running on. Get in a fight, we'll make up. Okay, just keep that in mind. So a lot of times people, they fight and they anticipate making up as part of the relationship. Is that a good thing? It can be, but at what point who's giving in to make up? That's a good question to ask you. Then we had to get our own place. I found a nice apartment for us after 2 years of being together and thought it would be a new start for us. Okay, sounds good. Things went good for about a year, and then I found out he was cheating on me. Isn't that surprising, being that this individual is highly guarded of you and controlling? So a lot of times there are people out there that are cheaters that actually are scared that you'll do the same thing because they know what they do and they don't want you to do the same thing. I mean, there's nothing worse than someone accusing you of being a cheater and then doing it themselves. He ended up leaving me and moved out. I was very insecure back then and still reached out as I hated being alone. Well, don't get down on yourself. There's a lot of people that get insecure. It was a probably shock to your system. And this isn't the time while you're pregnant to feel bad about yourself for past mistakes. We make mistakes so we can learn how to deal with the same problem in the future. We ended up seeing each other every so often, eventually finding out I was pregnant. He seemed happy at first. I found a bigger place for us, and this was when bad got extremely toxic. We would fight constantly. He would say horrible things to me and talk about why I would have a baby, why I would have a baby, and told me to get an abortion when at this point I was already through the first trimester. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. This is your choice. Okay. An individual is talking like this and he's making these kinds of comments. You need to get out of that house and move in with a family member or friend and get into a secure area where you can have some peace and quiet and do your best to be calm while you're pregnant. It's important. I didn't need him. I'm independent and he's around. He never helped financially. I felt like I was doing everything myself. Well, if you were, again, he's telling you who you are, and at 4 years, you know who he is. Now, the pregnancy part, you both have a responsibility in that. Okay, so it's like one of those things. It's like, I'm pregnant, and he's not up for it, and he's angry about it. Well, you still have a responsibility on your end to do your best as a mother, because you had a role in this. This is when I changed my view on our relationship. I didn't need him. I'm independent, and he's never around anyways to work on things. I began to ask him to leave. This is where fights would get real bad. He talked about custody and not paying child support when the baby isn't here yet. Well, all you do with that is you go, okay, I'm going to get a lawyer, and you get a lawyer. You don't negotiate, oh, I'm not going to pay child support and all that shit. Let the courts handle it. I know that's not fun. It's not something you look forward to, but you don't even negotiate that in a verbal argument. It's just horseshit. Oh, and he talked about custody. Well, let's just get the lawyers involved. Okay, that's it. He said he wasn't going to leave and that I should move out. If it's your, when it was my place, if you're on the lease, call the fucking police. So this is one of those individuals. He's just trying to bully you with words. And you got it like every situation. Where's my power? Okay, this is my place. I'm on the lease. So I can have you physically removed. I can report you to the landlord, so on and so on and so on. Don't even play in a game like this. Do not go in the snake pit with idiots like this. Finally, just yesterday, he said he will leave and his family is going to help him out. So I remember reading that you stayed in his family's condo. So this individual probably, I'm not going to say he's necessarily rich, but his family still takes care of him. Sounds like a fucking brat. Finally, just yesterday, he said he will leave and his family is going to help him out. Good for him. Say, that's fine. And your family will probably help out with the kid too. Now I'm 8 months pregnant and more than likely going to be a single mom. Okay, here's the thing. The things that this man said to you, the cheating, the controlling behavior, whether you're 8 months pregnant, you're single, you don't have kids, it doesn't matter. You don't want to be with an individual like this long term. Okay, don't throw extra sauce on top because, like I said, you as an individual need to take responsibility that you didn't get pregnant out of the sky. You have 50% responsibility in that action, and now you've chosen to go ahead and do your best as a parent. An individual like this is not ready to be a parent. His family texts me constantly, blaming me and insulting me as he does. Well, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, obviously. I find it hard to cope with his negativity as I try hardest to keep myself surrounded myself in positivity. Get a lawyer and go, look, I'm pregnant. What are my rights here? What am I facing? These individuals are sending me insulting messages. What do I do with this? Get lawyers involved and get the law involved. This is ridiculous. And you should be staying with a close friend or family member. There's no reason for you to be alone in a time like this, especially a highly sensitive time at 8 months in the pregnancy. Do you have a friend or family member that could help out right now? Do not be too proud to ask. I'm now scared of the aftermath when the baby is born and the arguments and the fact that he will be part of my life due to the baby. Okay. The immediate focus is to have a healthy pregnancy. And what I'm going to say now, again, I'm going to hammer this home. I've had other clients ask me this before. The baby comes first. And right now, the best thing for you to do is to probably move in with a friend or family member or colleague that's going to help you out. And I've had people say, well, I don't know, and then, months later, they were like, you were right. Because you need support right now, not from this guy, but you need someone that's there for you. And if you're embarrassed or uncomfortable to ask, just know, would you do that for someone else? I want to try and co-parent, but he's very difficult to deal with. Again, just focus on having a healthy pregnancy right now. Take it day by day, okay? Keep communication to the lowest level with this individual and his family. Talk to a lawyer. What are your rights? Okay? I know there's going to be long battles ahead. Put the battles to the side and focus on being healthy right now. I just feel that it wasn't good for neither of us to stay with each other anymore. And so most certainly wouldn't be a good environment for a baby. I agree with you. That's true. What are your thoughts on this? I just gave them, dude. Do you think I was wrong to end it? Should I have tried more to mend the relationship? No. It's not a good timing at 8 months of the pregnancy, but breakups never are. And bottom line is, this person is not, he's being verbally abusive, he's being offensive, hurtful, and this isn't going to help you in having a better pregnancy. And if it doesn't end now, it's going to end in a month, 2 months, 3 months. So you're better off now. Do you have any advice on handling the co-parent situation? Put the child first. How do I stop myself from trying again with someone that I've tried with over and over again? Get some moral support from a friend or family member that you can stay with, because part of your problem before is you don't like to be alone. So I would highly recommend that. And if you don't have some friend that you're that close to, is there a relative out there that you've kind of lost touch with, but if you put them on the spot just to help you out in this situation, they're a good-hearted person? I appreciate your time and advice on this. Sorry if it was too long. I just kept typing my thoughts. It's not too long at all, and I hope the advice helps. And if you want to take it a step further, we can do a live coaching. So let me get back to the live stream. Wow, we don't have very many people on deck today. My son's father came over to see son. What's up, Tommy? We were leaving to get something to eat. I asked if he wanted to tag along, and he said he was trying to save money, yet the next day he's out with a friend at dinner, which makes it hard to co-parenting. Baby is great, just trying to. Well, I mean, Caitlin, these kinds of things, people can tit for tat with the idea that, like, oh, maybe he was trying to save money. I don't know. These are things that you get entangled in that upset people, that are petty, small things. And if you're at a point with your son's father, where these kinds of things are really bothering you, got to eliminate your interactions with him. And in the future, do not invite him to dinner. Okay. He needs to make more of an effort. And did you believe him that he was trying to save money? And was the place that he was eating dinner at expensive or cheap? Those are questions that, if you're going to make that kind of a statement, that would, put more relevance on it. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just looking up that if I had another story here to share for. Does anyone have any questions today about their situation? Yeah, I'm not. Sometimes some of these stories that come and I don't share them on the thing. What's up, Steph? So glad I finally caught you online. Oh my God, I was wondering about you. How you doing? Last time you left us with a cliffhanger about your situation with your ex. Are you okay now, Rob? I don't know what's going on, bro. Maybe you got to send us a letter to YouTube. I didn't get notification for some reason. This is weird. I don't know how that works. I'm gonna have to look into it. I got an assistant now that helps me out a little bit, so this will be helpful. Now that we got a few extra on deck, though, I have an extra story that I'll share that's actually from a client that I did a coaching with already, and I've already went over the story, but she said, go ahead and share it with the group and with your channel. So I think it's a story that a lot of people go through, and I'll get to that in a moment. But today we were talking about, the main topic was how to parent after a breakup, which I said put the kid first, short answer. When to stop trying to fix a relationship. When you're exhausted, tired, and don't believe the person will change, short answer. And I think that people have to ask themselves the question, why are you trying to fix the relationship? And I think the common answer is, well, I miss them. I don't like being alone. And this is a big one that I hear a lot. Well, if we broke up, we would have wasted all that time. Like then it would have been all a waste. And that's the one that sometimes I totally understand missing an individual. I totally understand a lot of individuals don't like to be alone, especially if they don't have a lot of friends and family, or they're not happy with their job. And this goes back to me telling people that it depends on where you're at in life as an individual and how much you're going to handle a breakup by yourself. But the idea that you wasted your time, never. That's the frame you want to go with. Whenever you had a relationship, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7, because if you spent that time with another human being, hopefully you learned something. If it was a wretched experience, hopefully you learned something. Bad experiences are some of the greatest life lessons you can ever have, right? So the idea that, oh, I was in this relationship, I can't believe I was in it so long, and he did this, she did that, he did this. Yeah, but at what point did you get up off the mat and take some power and go, yeah, I'm fucking done. I know, I'm sorry about that, hon. I just truly needed your advice ASAP because it was such a scary time. No problem. Are you okay now? Are things better, Stephanie? I don't mind if you call up or email or something like that, or on the live stream, but just that was an interesting situation there. And I think maybe this applies for you today, to stop trying, right? One thing that will definitely add to someone trying to go back again and again is if you live in a close proximity. So if you live 10 minutes apart, or your neighbors, or you live within 20 minutes, and I'll just say this, if it's been a week, it's been 2 weeks, and you're lacking intimacy, that's usually when people get a weak moment and they're like, let me call my ex. And then they, put a little extra sauce on the conversation, and they, get together in the name of intimacy. It's very human. And then there's also the situation where, you're at home and you're alone on a Saturday night, and you're thinking like, God, it would just be nice to just have someone here with me. Right. And I totally get that too. I totally understand that. The way people usually stop themselves from trying again is they eliminate the triggers that make them call their ex. So you have to identify that for yourself. For example, if you, like I've talked about this before, if you live in the same apartment or house that you guys shared before, it's a really good idea to get out of that house. And I'd say, for this individual that wrote her story earlier today, she definitely, being that she's still pregnant right now, could move in with a friend or family member for a bit and just get some moral support. I think if you're in a really traumatic relationship, and full disclosure, my breakups although I felt like one of them was traumatic and hurtful, and I'm laughing now because it wasn't. It was a breakup. It was a difference in values and a difference in directions that we were going in our lives, and at the time, it felt really, really, really bad. But I'm talking about people that have been verbally or physically abused, or they've been openly cheated on, and you're just you're in a relationship where that individual makes you cry, they hurt you. These are individuals that know how to push your buttons. And in that case, it wouldn't be bad for you to move in with a friend, family member, or coworker for a little while to get some moral support. Because being alone in those situations is really tough on people. I don't think, if you own your house or your condo, you could certainly rent it out. But being around friend and family is really helpful. And I know that my sister, for example, when she got out of a long-term relationship and she had 2 kids, um, I said, "Hey, look, let's live together. I'll help out," and my mom helped out, and and she moved about an hour and a half away from where the kids moved. They had to change schools and whatnot, and I had a full. My girlfriend lived with me at the time, and it really worked because I'm really close to my niece and nephew, and for 2 years we all lived together, and it really helped her move on. I don't know if it would have been as smooth for her had she not moved, because that ex kept coming back to the house and wanting answers and trying to push buttons. And actually, I had to go down there, not to fight him, but to have a chat with him and say, "Hey, look, you're out of line right now." I had to go over there and I said, you're showing up at the house, you're scaring her, this, that, and the other. And he respected me because I didn't come at him like I'm going to get in a fight with you. I felt bad for him. He started crying and he listened. But at the same time, my sister needed to move out of that house. That was a house that they shared for years and had the family together. And people aren't just tied to each other, they're a lot of times tied to their stuff, like a house, like a car. And so when they break up and they have to give up that other stuff, it's really fucking difficult because it's layered. Things are better. So we came to a mutual understanding that if he moved back to LA, I wouldn't press charges or get an order of protection against him. And thank God he moved back last week. Well, that's you taking your power at the highest level and going, all right, we're not going to negotiate anymore. I'm going to go get a referee, which is the police or a lawyer, and I'm going to get this done. So I've changed my number, social media, passwords, everything except my address, but he is back in SoCal. I talked with his mom who called me to apologize on his behalf. She's going to keep him away. Well, I mean, that's nice of the mom to be in your corner and whatnot. And I think you did the right thing. You went all in on I'm done. From me in this area now that he's not in my area or close to me and doesn't have my contact info, I've been able to move forward and it's good, it's finished. And I'm able to put this behind me. Well, that's outstanding. That's a great closing statement, Steph. I'm really happy for you, hon. Alex D, what's up, bud? How are you? I'm really happy for you. That's good news. And it's still gonna be a little bit tough, but like here's the thing, everyone from the outside in, right? Including myself, who gets an aerial view of this kind of stuff and can be objective and give my opinion all you want, right? And right now the internet's full of critics. You should do this, you should do that, they should do this. It's like, what would you do, right? Your situation, Steph, I'm going to tell you right now, you did the fucking right thing. 100%. 100%. And you went all in. You didn't leave any unopened doors. You follow me? So you had a situation where you're scared of this individual, you're scared of abuse. It got really, really bad. And instead of being a victim, complaining, doing those kinds of things for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you complained, you were upset, you were scared, and you went to your sister's house, I believe, and then you went all in on offense and went, look, all right, I'm going to press charges. I'm getting the police involved. I'm getting order of protection. I'm changing my social media. See how you did everything? You locked all the doors. You locked all the doors. And then if he comes back again, it's like you got your hand on the button and you're like, okay, I'm going to go straight back to the same officer that I talked to. And I'm not even going to hesitate to get an order of protection. And I told her to get him professional mental help. I believe he has PTSD. She agrees, his mom, that he needs rehab. So I'm sure she'll be sending him away if he wants her to continue supporting him financially. He's dependent on her. That's probably part of the problem, man. God, he's in his late 20s, early 30s. Okay. There's a lot of people out there like that too. And the sad thing is, Steph, and I'm not judging him because I don't know his life and I don't know where the PTSD came from. So I don't want to make some kind of blanket statement. But you know what's really tough is when you have a giant safety net, like your mother or father's rich, which mine aren't, but I'm talking about in general. I've noticed that there's a lot of people that are parents that from the outside look pretty upstanding and financially are extremely well off with umpteen opportunities to offer their children. And sometimes their children get into their 30s and they got a drug or alcohol problem and, they can't shake it. And they never have a good job and they never really make an effort. And that's because mom and dad will always be there with a giant safety net. And these individuals, I believe it's actually very human of them to go, well, worst case scenario, I'm not going to get in that much trouble. This is why people, when they hit ground zero, and this can be in a breakup, they make a change because they go like, no one's going to help me. No one's going to save me. No, I got to get back on deck and realize what's humanly possible outside of just, calling up, Uncle Rich, right? Well, I'm glad that you explored everything on that, Steph. Good job. There's no way you can come back in my life now useless. He just shows back up, but he doesn't have a car right now. So I'm positive will finally leave me alone. Well, go for you, hon. Go for you. And you're doing the best you can right now. And I'm going to add something else. Before you go to sleep at night, if you feel like you have any guilt on your end, because I think you felt bad for him, forgive yourself. I've told other people to do this. It's a very powerful statement to go, I forgive myself. I'm doing the best I can. It's a really powerful statement. And some people are really hard on themselves. They're really hard on themselves, and you included. I would guess this is why you stayed in it this long. And you feel it'll get guilt. You need to say, I did the best I could, and I forgive myself. I'm doing the best I can right now. And say that to yourself before you go to sleep. There's no way he can come back. He was in the military, so he has some serious issues he needs to address. Sadly, I'll pray for him for a distance. Good. That's a good way to do it, hun. And I'm not discompassionate to being in the military and those kinds of things. But he needs to get out in front of that and work on it. And you need to move on with your life because you got bigger fish to fry, right? You're a young lady. You're in your late 20s, hon. You live in California. You got things going for yourself. Get on deck. Start doing some good things out there. Doing well. I'm not resonating with this topic, but it's nice to hear more matured stories. Okay, Alex. All good. Alex, we're at 38 minutes right now. If you want to ask a random question or something like that, I'm here for you. I hope you're well. Guilt can be a lifelong struggle for some. Yeah, man. Guilt's a big thing. It's actually probably one of the strongest negative emotions that we can feel for a long period of time. Look at the amount of Indian, when I say Indian, I'm saying from India, not Native Americans, people that send me their stories. And a lot of times it's about parents involved in their relationships, that their parents aren't approving who they're going to marry. So this is a cultural thing. I'm not here to judge, their way of doing things, but a lot of time their system is their parents help choose, or do choose their future marriage partner. And putting that to the side, whether that's right or wrong, the reality is it creates this massive amount of guilt if you fall in love with someone your parents don't like, because imagine the conflict of, and to the culture of Indian people, they stay in their marriages. I don't know what the numbers is or the data or the studies are. This is what people do. Oh, this data shows well, show me the studies and the data. I'm so sick of that fucking line. what's the reality of what you've noticed in your own life? So in my own life, most Indian couples, I had friends that were Indian descent in California. Their parents stay together. I don't know if that's due to the system or whatnot. And they have good family ties. That being said, the kids are close to their parents. And so when the parents go, yeah, you can't marry the woman that you love and you want to marry so badly, what does that create? Guilt? And then what do you do with that guilt? Then you become indecisive, you have less confidence, and then that guilt can turn into um, a lack of confidence, a lack of self-esteem. Because if your parents can't accept you, who can? So how to co-parent when the dad still tries to have a sexual relationship with you? And why don't guys get emotionally attached in sex, or is that not true? Great questions, hon. So how to co-parent when the dad still tries to have a sexual relationship with you? Short answer, tell him it's not going to happen if you don't want it. I'm guessing, could be wrong, Caitlin, there's some moments, you might not want to admit this, that maybe you're still attracted to him as a man and you want to have, if you didn't want to have any kind of intimacy with him, I don't know if you'd ask that question, because it should just be, if this is what you want, it should just be a hard no. That's not going to happen. The other part of that, don't put yourself in situations where they're intimate situations, like you're going to watch TV together on the couch or something on a Friday night. I don't know. But your power is to say, no, 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 that's not going to happen. And I'm sure when he pulls the Ronnie Romance moves, or I'm sure he has a playbook on things that he does to maybe get you to get intimate, then you need to stop that. If that's something you don't want to do, your power is in, at any given moment, you could say, no, that's not going to happen. You're not going to stop him from trying. What you could do is eliminate all avenues and make it fucking crystal clear that you're not interested. The question is, are you slightly interested, and do you give in sometimes? That's not his fault. That's you giving in to desire. That's a different thing. And if you want to do that, that's fine. I don't have a problem with it, but don't blame him. And why don't guys get emotionally attached in sex? I think guys are different with sex. There are guys probably out there that probably are more clingy than other ones. It's probably biological. Women value sex as a higher level of connection long term, where men probably value it more as a short-term release. And so that's probably more of a biological thing that you're not going to get over. But there are guys out there that, that can be clingy and needy. I think what it has to do with, though, Caitlin, is what you regard once someone goes, quote unquote, all the way and they have sex, someone will go, once we do that, then we're this. And someone else will go, well, that was just something that was fun and we made each other feel good. That's a difference in the values of having that. Overall, generally speaking, men care less emotionally about it. Yes, that's true. And that's just reality. But some do get emotionally attached. So it's not 100% true. There's plenty of guys, hence the term pussy whooped, right? Also not related to this, but my mom wanted to know if you're staying in Thailand indefinitely. As of right now, yes. I'm quite happy with what's going on here. We haven't had any COVID cases where I live in, 3 weeks or something like that. And so as of right now, yes, I do come back to visit my family, my parents specifically in California for a month, usually a year. I had to push that back this year, and probably during Christmas, I'm really hoping to get back. But, with the uncertainty about this whole thing and the other crap that's going on, I'm not sure. But for right now, I'm very happy with where I'm at. Tell your mom I said hello. Depends on what sort of value a guy places on sex. That's exactly right, Rob. Many will use it as recreational activity with no emotion attached. Oh yeah, I bought a physical copy of No More Mr. Guys. I'm on chapter, and I'm on chapter what? As promised. Oh, chapter, good for you. That author, Alex, he has many interviews on YouTube. So if you want to dive a little deeper on, recent interviews he's done, his name's Robert Glover, as you know from the book. And the next one would be The Rational Male for you. But I think No More Mr. Nice Guy is a great start. And at your young age, it's a good book to read. Let me know what you think about it and how it goes for you. Thank you, Mac. Thank God I do not have a kid with him, although I seriously considered it at one point. I have no attachments to him now, and I'm free to move on. You are right. I'm young and prime. I'm doing me. Go for you, hon. Go for you. And when I broke up, I think you said you're 28, Steph. If I call you Steph or Stephanie, I was 28. I just turned 28. I broke up 4 days before my breakup or something like that. It was like 4 or 5 days. So all these people, we broke up right before my birthday and I didn't get a happy birthday. I hear this all the time. I remember 4 or 5 days after we broke up, I got like a happy birthday. And I was like, I was like, pick up your shit from the house. You left some things. I thought I was being so tough. And I remember thinking, I've shared a lot of different stories and people know snippets, and Rob's probably heard this shit before. Okay, so 28 November, same kind of thing. And I remember thinking, like I wasn't like, oh, I wasted my time. It was just hurt, and I just missed my ex, and I just went through a couple months. I knew we weren't going to get back together anytime soon or anything like that, and she wasn't going to change. It just was a void. It was a big void because we lived together. But when I finally turned the corner and I moved out to Thailand in my late 20s, like I think it was October or November, 11 years ago in October. My plan was like, you know what? I'm 28 years old. I'm still young. I'm not married. I don't have kids. Fuck it. I'm going to go over there for a year. I'm going to teach. I'm going to have a good time, and I'm going to have a good time in my late 20s living on a tropical beach. That was my objective, and it was a pretty good one. And it led to a lot of other stuff. But that was me doing me. I think at the end, we were using each other purely for just physical reasons, like you stated, Friday Night Live. No problem there. Don't be regretful, but you have to get to a certain point. Like, what are you trading for what, right? You're trading intimacy for, a week of hell. I think it depends on the guy and his age and experience and maturity level. Also, are you wanting to have a sexual relationship too, or just strictly co-parent? Good question. Lala, how you doing, hun? What happens after you're intimate with the ex? Do you feel bad about it? Good question. Good question, Lala. 27, I'll be November. Great age. Look up Saturn's return. So when I was 28, everyone's like, oh, you're going through Saturn's return. This is an astrology thing that's kind of interesting. I'll do this before, I think. I just remember people, oh, it's Saturn's return. You're 28. This 28 is supposed to be, according to Saturn return, it's supposed to be a pinnacle moment in your life because of the moons and Saturn or some shit. But look it up. It's interesting for a 28-year-old. I feel like shot afterwards. He gives me false hope. I feel like shot afterwards. He gives me false hope that we will be family. Just to clarify, what do you mean? I feel like you've been shot by a gun, or feel like shot of energy? Clarify that, Catlin. I feel like shot afterwards. He gives me false hope that he will be a family. Tells me he loves me during sex, but his actions show he doesn't. His roommate in his ear talking shit about me all. Well, bottom line is his actions speak louder than his words. That's a cliche statement. That's absolutely true. So now that you've known him for a while, you know his playbook. His playbook is, I'll say anything you want me to say so that we can sleep together. Your playbook is, I want to sleep with you, but I do want reassurance that you love me and you want to have a family. So you're in two different directions. You know where it's going, and then you go, oh, he always does this. That's when you got to go. The door's closed, hon. Time and his mood changes to me drastically. Hates me all over again. I've done nothing to him besides accusing him of having bromance with his roommate. There's been a lot of red flags there. They are bi? Oh my goodness. Is that true? I mean, I don't have a problem with that. Are you okay with that? It's just surprising. Um, I got to pause the live stream really quick. I'll be right back. I got to go open the gate for someone here. Get your questions in. All right. Thanks for the patience here. Callan, does that make sense? I think that was a really good question by Lala. That how do you feel afterwards? That's a good question. Instead of focusing on what he feels or what he lacks, if you're feeling like the other foot's going to drop every time, well, then you're not really getting the satisfaction that you want out of it. And as far as there's been a lot of red flags, they are bi. I mean, looking into Saturn's return, you never heard of that before? It's funny, when I was 28, I'd never heard of it before, and everyone was telling me. I had a big fight yesterday. He hasn't reached out. Coach thinks I'll hear from him. What do you think? Mac, do you recommend that girls go for guys that are needy? I feel like I'm about to go for a total opposite of my ex who didn't show emotion unless drunk. Okay, that's a good question. My knee-jerk reaction is no, because I don't think most women find that attractive long term. And what women like that will do is they'll basically they'll have a little pet that they walk around everywhere that says yes and no to everything they do. And I've had friends that end up in relationships where they're complaining all the time about their wife or their girlfriends, and they never stand up for themselves. And they're just needy. So I don't know what you mean. I don't know. First of all, I don't know what needy means to you, or why you would want to pursue a needy guy. Because first of all, there's first of all, to go back to that, you might like it in the beginning because you're getting a lot of attention. But most women I talk to, and there's women that I talk to in live coaching sessions, they go, this is very fucking common, especially women that are in their late 30s and up. They want a more vulnerable man that shows more emotion. This comes up a lot. And that's what they're looking for. And I understand where they're coming from. That being said, in repeat sessions later on, they'll start dating a guy that they find to be more vulnerable and needy, if you will, or soft, and they were like, I don't know what it is. I'm just not that attracted to him. So I don't, even if you were going for that, Steph, I don't know if you'd be attracted to him. What I would say is that you're going to overcompensate trying to fix something from your past, when the reality is every human being's a little bit intricately different. And so you still can find a guy that doesn't just show emotion when he's drunk. You could find a strong guy that was in the military before, that has some of the values that this past guy had that you liked, or some of the physical attributes, and he could, fall more in the middle. But I would say that women that like a needy guy end up controlling the relationship, and they find the man less attractive, but they find it very convenient to get what they want. And that becomes the relationship. And those are the relationships that end up having, no intimacy and no spark, because at the end of the day, intimacy and attraction comes from masculinity and femininity. And so whether the man's going to be more feminine or the woman's going to be more masculine, that could be the case, but there needs to be polar opposites. And so you need to check who you are and what you want. But don't, just because you had one bad experience with a guy that's quote unquote very masculine and independent, it doesn't mean they're all like that. And so I tell a lot of people this: when you start dating someone new and you like them, I'm not telling you to move in with them or go all in. And it's interesting because I just told someone this in a live coaching session, but you do have to give them the benefit of the doubt and see where things go, or else the relationship will never get off the ground. So the short answer, do I recommend girls go for guys that are needy? No, because I think long term you'll find it unattractive and you'll find it annoying, actually. Coach knows where I'm coming from. I would say TV, yes, you should. Okay, Alex. Because Alex is a little bit needy in his past relationship. So there you go. I would say yes. They usually always reach out, even more so if there's a history. Okay, well, there you go. We got Rob's opinion. I appreciate that. My husband was needy. I felt like he was the woman in the relationship. And it's a case by case, moment to moment, situation to situation thing, as far as the masculine and feminine thing goes. Curious as to where you're coming from. I should also mention a lot of that also depends on the dynamic of the power balance. Would you say you have the power tipping in your direction? That's an interesting question, Jen. Stephanie TV, I'm very emotional and lovey-dovey. A lot of men will evolve into the woman in the relationship, specifically if they have never read up on or been taught how relationship dynamics actually work. Well, you know what I find that in Western culture that there's so much tied to the idea, like if we get divorced, I'm going to lose my house and I'm going to lose my car and I'm going to lose this much money a month, that men literally get castrated by the idea that I can't stand up for myself because I never want to get a divorce and lose half my house. Not all, Jen, but what was the communication overall much better rather than dating a cocky douche who's totally way too into himself? So here's what I'm saying, Steph. You're going like extremely high, cocky, arrogant, masculine, and then you're like, oh, I'll take a needy one. Why not look for something just a few notches below? Does that make sense? Just spit. Honestly, no, I don't feel like I have the power right now. I don't feel like you're powerless, though, Jen. I think that's a good thing. Seriously, that's a habit that most guys don't possess. If a guy is just going with a trial and error of in terms of what works and what doesn't in a relationship, he will very likely fail. Good point. Well, like Coach, you have to be careful. I overdid it and didn't help me. You still got to be true to your character. If you're a soft individual, Alex, and there's some things, but you were way too needy. I'm just going to be honest. I think you know that. And you came to me multiple times to talk. And that's why I told you need to read that book because you get a different perspective than me. And Alex's ex actually came back to him multiple times. And the same thing happened over and over again. And that's due to the playbook you're running on. And you feel it. Here's the problem with needy women and needy men. Needy women get away with being needy more because a guy there are some guys that like it. I don't personally like it, but there are guys that like it. They feel like they're needed. They feel like their woman's always into them, and they feel like they can control the situation easier. But needy men, eventually, what happens if someone's extremely needy? They're never satisfied. So they're always complaining, they're always whiny, and it gets exhausting because you always want more from your partner. And that's where the partner ends up going, oh, you make me feel worthless or I can't win. And it's just because the other individual is never satisfied, like a spoiled brat. And that comes from probably the way they were raised. A lot of people that act that way, they were babied by one of their parents or their aunties or their uncles or their grandparents. And so when they get into a real relationship, they want their partner to baby them also. Does that make sense? And if the other person doesn't want to baby you, it doesn't work. Seems to me by now you have greater knowledge on how these dynamics work, likely even more than he does. Sometimes a guy's ego will get in the way, and oftentimes that ego is loaded with false ideologies when it comes to relationship ideals. Sure. What's up, Soul Cutter? Hey, Coach, not stopping, just stop by to shout and out and hello. Just to see you live. It's 6:49 a.m. here. Hope you're good. I'm good. Thanks for saying hello, Soul Cut. I appreciate you, bud. I appreciate the long comment that you made at the end of one of my live streams before. That was very kind of you. Someone will theorize that it's cheaper financially for them to stay in a relationship they aren't happy with as opposed to getting an expensive divorce. Yeah, I mean, I've heard this before, the term cheaper to keep her or cheaper to keep him. There was someone I knew that was in a relationship, and he found out his wife was literally telling friends and family members it's cheaper to keep him because she was the one that made more money, and he would have been probably paid alimony in some sort. And so yeah, that creates a dynamic where there's so much bitterness about the money issue that the intimacy dissipates, and then someone just becomes partners as far as raising their kids and holding financial assets together. And you know what? I get it, because it's the alternative, getting a studio apartment in a bad area of town and starting over again when you're 35 years old or 40 years old. That doesn't sound fun to me. And so I would say that the other alternative is to get marriage counseling and really try to work on it and try your best. That being said, a lot of times it doesn't work. I agree with you, Coach. Plus, some women like soft guys and lovey-dovey ones. Alex, make an effort to read that fucking book, dude. And like I said, you're gonna have a lot of pitfalls with women, dude. Here's the thing, women, because I know you, Alex, and you know me. I fucking you've had a few live coachings with me, and I care about you, bud. But you're a young dude. You're in your early 20s right now, and you got some things to learn. Because I'll tell you what, this is the kind of relationship someone like yourself gets into that believes that being soft and lovey-dovey, women like this, right? You end up with a woman that controls you. And you'll be like, oh, as long as you make my dinner and you give me make the bed and do these kinds of things, I'll do anything you say and anything you do. You read that book, because you keep coming back to, well, this is what women like, and I can still be this way. Like, you're fighting what I keep trying to tell you. And your idea is, I don't want to be an asshole. Rob, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to be an asshole. I'm not telling you to be an asshole, but you can't continue to be the way you are, or you're going to end up sabotaging relationships again and again. And the idea that, yeah, women like lovey-dovey and they like softness in small doses, not that being your entire character. And when you showed me the story that you wrote, and what went down repeatedly, you just kept doing the same things. I agree, but I can realize when that happens. As soon as I see controlling happening, then that's when I leave. Okay. The woman will control you if you subconsciously hate you. That is true, too. I've never heard it said that way, but Rob's right. Some women will enjoy the fact that they have control of the relationship because power corrupts, and people like power, but subconsciously they hate you, or I don't know if I want to use hate, but subconsciously they despise you in some ways and find you unattractive. Wow, ain't that the truth? Alex, listen to Coach. This man knows his shit, really. No, me and Alex have done a couple live coaching sessions, and so when I talk to him, I'm not talking down to him. I'm talking to him with respect, and I know that he keeps circling back to, like, well, I can be lovey-dovey and I can be like this, because it's almost like you don't want to lose that part of who you are and that identity. But at the same time, you need to level up a little bit higher. Okay, shed that snake skin. You need to create a proper balance. Yeah, that's right. So what happens is, it's like, oh, I'm lovey-dovey, I'm soft, I'm needy. Some women like this, and then you're like, well, I don't want to be an asshole. It's like, well, can you come up to here? You know what I mean? Can you stand up for yourself a little bit more? Can you be indifferent a little more often? I made those mistakes when I was 19, 20. Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm not talking. This is why sometimes when I talk to people in their early 20s, I'm like, this is an incredible time for you to learn some of this stuff, because it's going to be a part of your life. Alex D, well, I've always dated playboys that didn't treat me the best. So now that I'm older, I'm kind of considering dating a more sensitive kind of guy. I mean, still masculine, just one that is open. Despise is a better word. It is, right? Many experts call this balance push-pull theory. Sure. Since I was extremely nice to my ex and always willing to do anything for her, it probably made me feel entitled to her. So when she left me, I was like, how could you? How could you? I did everything for you. But the reality is, if you want to get deeper into this, Alex, you didn't have enough going on in your life that was about you. You had a job you didn't like. She was going to school for, I'm just going to unpack this right now. She was going to school, I believe, for psychology, and she had a job, and she liked what she was studying, right? You had a job you didn't like. You're still living at home. And so you were extremely attached to this being the best thing in your life. And so when she didn't match that level, it really bothered you because you're like, you're number one in my life. Well, for her, if she had a test that week, she wasn't going to hang out with you because school comes first right now. I'm spending a lot of money. It's important to me. She had a balance of other things in her life that were also important, and you couldn't understand that because you had put her on a pedestal as number one in your life, and it became unattractive to her. As a man or a woman, I think both types, but especially men, you should be having other things in your life that mean a lot to you. Sometimes we call it purpose. Sometimes we call it obsession or passion, but you should have other things going for yourself. And that's what's attractive. Since I was extremely nice to my ex, I used to love the asshole bad boy type and learn the hard way because of it. Why would you say that you like that type? What was attractive about them, Steph? Being loving or expressing feelings is different than needing another person's validation. Lala's correct. You said it really well, Lala. Yeah, it's different. It is different. What happens is when you don't get so you express your feelings or something like that, and what you don't realize about a partner is sometimes they have a bad day. Sometimes some shit happened at work and they're not in the mood for a kiss and a hug, and that's when you have to pull back and go, okay, I'll just give you some time and space, and not go, why haven't you called me, or why aren't you loving me the way I did? I had a bad day today, leave me alone, right? Seeking validation is one of the worst things a man could do. Many codependent types go in this direction. I've never seen a relationship like that among people I know that worked out. Yes, and that led me to thinking that it was a one-sided relationship and probably made her feel bad about it. Purpose is huge. If you don't have a purpose, take the time to find one. And you can have multiple purposes. This is what's really interesting. You can have multiple purposes. In other words, your purpose is to be a good parent. Your purpose at work is to do a really good job I've been a teacher for years. Your purpose is to be a good son. And in different moments, you can change that purpose and focus. And so there should be something that's really high on that list, right? This is why professional athletes, I'm a little bit jealous sometimes because it's very clear for them. They're going to get paid huge amounts of money. They have a job where hopefully they have really good camaraderie, and they have a direct vision of exactly what they want to do is to play a sport at the highest level. And so their focus can be narrow. And their purpose can be very, very clear. I wonder if there's exercise activities for this, coach. I know reading the book is probably one. Yeah, start with that. Morning from the UK. What's up, Lee Clive? Listening to the show, some advice as usual. Lee, how you doing, bud? Good friend of mine. How's the YouTube channel coming? Lee is actually, if it's the Lee I'm thinking of, Lee's a single father in England or the UK. I guess it applies to both things. And he's going to start a YouTube channel soon, I think. Brilliant observation, Lala. Well, that was kind of you, Soul Cutter. I've found that the beginning of changing is the ability to simply be open. There are a few other books and channels I can recommend if you want some. Well, there you go, Rob. I would, before you get Alex, just read the book first, okay? Because it took you, I don't know how long to get the book. Do that one thing first, and then come back to me and go, hey, the rational male and No more Mr. Nice Guy. Just start with those. If you go into too many different directions at one time, you can get confused. Okay, that's my advice. Does that make sense, Rob? Do those things first, and then start going down the rabbit hole in different directions. But for right now, read that book as the first thing. Then The Rational Male. Then maybe Models by Mark Manson. Maybe for dating. Those 3 books alone, and then go in any direction you want from there. Derek D, it's always a pleasure. Good to hear from you. I think it was just exciting, the thrill and chase of having someone that I had to convince to commit. This is interesting, right, Rob? It felt like a challenge that I needed to overcome. Also, the tough guy image felt more protective. Okay, so bottom line is 3% Man is Corey Wayne's book that Rob's suggesting. I think it was just exciting to throw. So there you go. This is, and Steph, if you read The Rational Male or some of these other books on attraction dynamics and different things, I'm not saying Rational Male is only about that. That's exactly what women are, a challenge. The idea that a guy's not willing to commit, he's indifferent, is attractive to a lot of women. That's not just you, Steph. And the fact that a guy's a tough guy image makes you feel protected is, it's very human for women to be attracted to that. Do you have to understand the science behind attraction? That's a good place to start. It sets a foundation for the intricate methods. Okay. So like I said, just finish that one book, then go to the next if you're going to read them. Also, I was in the early 20s, didn't know better. Steph, that's a natural, women are naturally attractive to those type of men a lot of the times. Okay. Look at movies, I shouldn't say movies because they're misleading in some of the ways that love transpires. But what you just described there, I would say 80 to 90% of women in their 20s, even in their 30s, are attracted to men that way. So no reason to feel naive. Yes, it makes sense. After the basics are understood, then work on certain subtle PUA techniques, the non-malicious type. I agree. Also, experience also help you out. No, definitely not okay. And now he's trying to get full custody of my son so he doesn't have to pay child support. Well, in that particular case, that sucks. It's shitty, and then you got to get a lawyer. I mean, that's what else is there? And when you get a lawyer, interview 3. Don't just get the first one that's recommended to you, and really listen to what they're telling you and offering you to do. And that's, stop negotiating with him. This is a thing that has to do with law. Him and his boyfriend want to try and play house with my kid. Not happening. Jeez, what a random thing. Like I said, just the drama of it, the emotions of it, Caitlin, put that to the side and get legal. So Stephanie, what would happen when he committed? Did you lose interest? That's a good question from Soul Cutter. Real life experience is huge. Wingman TV gives guys theories from a woman's perspective, how to look at some of those vids. Wingman TV. Okay, so was it you that suggested that or someone else? Would you agree that attraction is based on the way a woman is conditioned through movies, books, and magazines? Sure, it's a part of it. That's why different cultures would be attracted to different things. For example, this might sound random to a lot of people, but living in Thailand, and I think a lot of Asia is like this. I'm not going to speak for every country, but living here, they're extremely attracted to pale white skin, not necessarily white people, just to clarify that, but to, fair skin. And if I'm from California, and people like to get tans, people like to be tan, people like to, even the tanning booths, they'll pay for it. So, when someone says what someone's physically attracted to, that a lot of time is encouraged through culture, right? Feel like shit. We have sex, and that's what I meant. Oh, you feel like shit. Well, if you feel like shit, like Lala said, then you need to assess that, and you need to put your foot down and stop doing that. You have a power and to say no, right? And just go, no, we're not going to do this anymore. And if the feeling results in that, then when you start to feel like he's putting the moves on you or he's manipulating you into doing that, tell yourself, like, wait a minute. It's like now in my life, I'll have a few beers here and there and stuff, but like I don't take it to the next level because I just think to myself, do I want a hangover tomorrow morning? No. I'd rather have a nice morning with a coffee, do some exercise, do some different things, and that'll literally stop me from drinking anymore. And what I would say to you is like, before that happens, go, do I want, think about that feeling you have afterwards where he becomes a liar, or where you just don't feel good about yourself and go, no, I don't want that. No, because time had built up the intensity between us. So when he finally committed to me, it actually made me want him even more. Good for you. Good description. Derek D, certainly in their teens and early 20s, I'm seeing this somewhat of the case, yet a lot of those are shallow, and if guys don't know the dynamics, they usually end quicker. Gatorade is your friend. Well, you know what I'll add is, just like people have allergies and different things, there's some people I know, it usually has to do with weight and size, that can handle alcohol at extraordinary amounts. And usually they're in training because they drink more regularly. But if you don't drink regularly and you're not, a huge person, it's more likely. And I'll add, your age counts too, in my experience. Do you also do coaching sessions either through call or messenger? Here you go, Rob. I can give you his email if he wants it. Good for you, Rob. Anyone have any closing questions? We got 13 on deck. I got an hour and 16 minutes here. This is about the time I close it down. Good to see you, Alex D. Good to see you, Soul Cutter. Rob IS. Steph, I'm glad you're doing better. Anyone have a closing question for me? Something later, coach. Really interesting as usual. I could stay and listen to the end, but we'll have to replay video later on today. No worries, Soul Cutter. You said it was 6 a.m. and some change. Hope you have a good day, bud. Anyone else? No. Good stream tonight. Thanks, Jen. I appreciate it, hon. I did stay till the end. Well, thank you. I appreciate that also. Like I said, wherever you're at in the world, it's early morning, and I appreciate that. Bye, all. Questions? We're going to call it a day. What are your thoughts on consent? I don't know what you mean by that. Consent. Everything happens for a reason. Isn't that true? Just had to stop in and update you on everything. Well, I appreciate you. I'm just a guy that knows the rules, Rob. Wow. Simple words go a long way sometimes. Show me the rules, man. Like that book, 3%, the 3% Man by Corey Wayne is one of the ones he's. One thing I'll say to you, Alex, the things that books do, I think Rob would agree with this. I can talk a lot, and I think I convey consent for going for what? Consent for what? Like having intimacy? Thanks, Steph. I appreciate you too. Well, Alex, you do. Here's what I noticed: is some people want to take shortcuts. Read the books, right, Rob? I mean, read that's going to take you some time. I don't know how fast you read, and then come back to me and discuss some of the things you learned from it. But here's the thing: those 3 books or 4 books that I mentioned, and I'll eventually have one myself. I think that Rob would agree. A lot of the stuff is overlapped in some books, and so it doesn't matter how you get the message. It just matters if it resonates. And the 3% Man is a very easy read. Oh, you like that Dating Black book? I haven't looked through that, and I still have it from you. I appreciate that, Rob. Okay, I do have to go. It's been good. It's been great. Derek D, we'll touch on that next time. All the best, and it's curtains.